revolution. Vocal revolution. Vocal revolution. Vocal revolution. Change the world with your voice.
So, welcome everyone to the Vocal Revolution podcast, where we talk about the power of your voice to change our world personally and collectively. My name's Katie Rose, and I've been hosting these conversations for a little while. You can find them on YouTube, on Apple Podcasts, and on my website. And you are in for a treat this afternoon because I have here with me wonderful Chris Rowbury. Hello, Chris.
Hello.
Chris first discovered the joys of unaccompanied harmony singing when working as a theatre performer in Cardiff. The company devised their own shows and often included amazing songs from Eastern Europe and beyond. And as you can't sing harmony on your own, Chris looked around for a group, but there weren't any. So he set up his own choir and he hasn't looked back since. So I'm really delighted that Chris is here and he's going to be sharing his passion and love and wonderful experiences of voice. So tell us, Chris, how did it, that was the story of how it started for you. Tell us about your mission and what motivates you with voice. Tell us all about it.
I suppose at a really simple level, it's entirely selfish. I love hearing unaccompanied voices singing harmony in a room. And if you want to do that, you can't do it by yourself. So you get a bunch of people and you teach them the harmonies and then they sing to you, which gives me enormous pleasure. And that's basically it. But the fantastic side effect is that people really enjoy that sense of coming together as a community. I think I said once to somebody, it's the most fun you can have with your clothes on, although I guess you could take your clothes off when you're singing. But you just need a bunch of people and a space, really, and you don't need anything else. I don't think there's anything else in the world that you can build something together collectively with a group of strangers in a matter of minutes without any equipment or any skills, particularly previous experience. You don't have to know the people, and within a matter of minutes, you've created something as a group of people. And I think that's a very rare thing. So my initial impulse was a selfish one, but having discovered that power, it's extraordinary, and it's a bit like a drug, because even now, after all these years, I can't believe it. I get a bunch of people in the room, and there's a little person in the back of your head going, "It's not going to work this time. Maybe these are the wrong people. Maybe it's not a right, nice space acoustically. Maybe I've chosen the wrong songs." And then 10 minutes later, you've got a bunch of smiley faces looking at you, creating this beautiful sound, which just sends shivers up my spine, even after all these years, even a relatively simple song. And you kind of go, yes, it works. It's magic.
It is. It's absolute magic. I'm totally with you there. It's just an incredible thing, isn't it, to walk into a room and know that within 5 minutes you can have strangers feeling like friends and be doing loads of fun, crazy stuff together that they may not normally do in life, generally out there. But suddenly there's this magic happening, and there are all these, as you say, incredible kind of benefits, side effects, and yet we don't even need to think about those. We just need to sing and have the experience together, isn't it? It's just phenomenal.
And you don't. It's such a great leveler as well, because unlike many people, whenever I work, I don't go around the group and ask everybody's name or why they're here or what they've done. We just go straight into the singing, because once you've got that out of the way, the other stuff follows naturally. So you may be standing next door to a professional singer or a professor of archaeology or somebody who works down the local shop. It doesn't matter. And you don't know that. You're just there as a human being with your voice, and you're offering it and sharing it with everybody else. And then afterwards, after you've done that and you've built something together, it's broken down some indescribable social barrier. So when it comes to the tea break, you can chat to these people as equals. But if we'd have gone around the circle and you'd have found out you're standing next to a professor or a professional singer, you might have been a little bit intimidated and not wanted to talk to them. But once you've shared your voices like that and created something together, that's broken all that down. And you just talk to them as equal, and you talk to them on the level of, where have you come from today? Do you sing in another choir, and that sort of level, and the other stuff just disappears. So it's a great level.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. And it's like almost like leave your biography at the door and come in and just be who you are. And in this moment, in this body, with this breath, with this voice, isn't it? Just basically, there's something very primal about that. And there's something also very profound in about the levels at which we're kind of engaging at different levels that allow us to then connect very, immediately in a way with each other, and it kind of takes away some of our perhaps attachment just for a moment. We can get them back when we go back out the door, but our social identities and our, which can sometimes be construed as divisive, but when we're actually in a room singing together, that is taken away, isn't it? It's just actually we're here
Yeah,
together.
yeah, yeah. And it's connecting without intellect, really, and it's connecting without that conscious intellectual thought. Your thinking head and your analytical head and your judgmental head, if the leader gets it right, they're all just dispensed with because they're irrelevant at that moment. And the other beautiful thing, I teach a lot of songs from different cultures from around the world in different languages, is that you can go into a room as a singing leader, and nobody in the room may have a shared language, and you can just teach a song phonetically or even with nonsense syllables, and everybody is united completely cross-culturally as well as with their individual status within society, I guess.
Absolutely. Can you tell us some examples of where you've done that? It sounds like you've experienced that in different parts of the world, perhaps. Or
Well, I haven't actually. I'm a bit of a charlatan, and I teach songs from other cultures, not necessarily having been there, but I make sure I do as much research as I possibly can to honor the songs. And my dream is to walk into a room of people from different cultures and different languages, and not use English, but to teach a group of people to sing. And I've not quite had that opportunity yet, but I would love to do it. In fact, my aim is to have the only adult leisure class in the world, which would just be me, because you come and you do yoga and you do breathing and you do relaxation and you do meditation and you do speaking foreign languages and you do counting and you do music making and you do community building. All of all those other things, apart from maybe making pots, can be done within the context of a bunch of people singing together. It's
absolutely.
extraordinary, all the skills you draw on.
It's incredible, isn't it? And that's why yeah, and that's why it always was and has been from the beginning of time how we taught babies to learn how to sing, how to speak, even, or how we, even when we're just teaching kids still the times table, that's done in a kind of chanty kind of fashion, isn't it? So it's kind of like it teaches us so many multi-level skills about language and so many different levels, so many different levels. Wow. So I hope you get your dream come true. Look, if anyone knows how it wants to get Chris to come and teach their multi-language community, he's your man. And there's something about the vulnerability, isn't there, as well? There's something for me that is, as I said, primal, but also vulnerable about, and that's again what's leveling, isn't there? There's a vulnerability about sharing our voices, and you must have seen people maybe talking about overcoming fears, or have you seen that happen for people?
I've had I used to teach at university. I used to teach theatre, and I used to teach quite physical theatre, so involving the body a lot and involving the voice. And what I found extraordinary is if you ask a bunch of students to improvise with their bodies, they do the most weird and wacky and strange things. If you ask the same students to improvise with their voice and just make sounds, you don't have to be singing, just make noises, they just clam up,
Mm,
completely inhibited, because there's something about the voice that is in some way so connected with our sense of self. that to share it, as you say, it's putting you in a very, very vulnerable place. And I don't quite understand why that is, but it is very, very important. I've often had people in singing groups that start to cry, and they quietly go away into another room or in the corner, and allow that to pass through them, and then they come back in again, because it's touching something. It's touching your own vulnerability, and it's also touching something very deep that's beyond conscious thought, which I don't really understand. I've just observed it.
Yeah. Yeah, it's quite a mysterious thing, but it's such an intimate instrument though, isn't it? Because it's the voice sits inside of us. So therefore the voice is, impacted and an expression of our emotional state, our mental state, our physical state, all these different levels of our beingness, let's say, are they're all being touched on when we voice. And especially when we sing at such levels, it can activate different parts of ourselves, including, as you say, emotions. Wow. Yeah.
I remember I went for singing lessons for a while, years and years and years ago, when I first started out, and every time I vaguely got it right, I would start to giggle, and I couldn't sing, and it was a release of some tension that I hadn't realized I was holding on to something, because the singing the line enabled me to contact something quite deep and vulnerable, and this automatic giggly response was an emotional expression of like, yes, I've kind of nailed it. It's
Yeah.
strange.
That's amazing. Yeah, all these responses that can be conveyed, yes, when we sing. And I mean, I talk to a lot of singing teachers, and a lot of us talk about how, yeah, sometimes you sing, but sometimes you just need to sit with people and they cry for quite a bit, or sometimes they just need to talk something out before they can sing, or they need to share something, or the singing then propels them into sharing something or reflecting on something that's going on. And that's why it's not therapy, but it can be deeply therapeutic. So,
Yes, exactly.
and that's
Exactly.
a really incredible thing. Have you got examples that you'd like to share, or other insights on how you've seen that kind of? Well, there's a very transformative. I'm sure you have many. I mean, many transformative moments for people in your groups. I'm sure you've seen and heard stories.
It's a funny thing. I'm aware of the power of it, and I'm aware that what I do is usually quite well received, and I'm quite good at it. But I kind of take that with a pinch of salt. What was interesting, I did a weekend recently, and a woman just came up to me and said, "You do realize you change people's lives, don't you?" And I went, "Oh, really?" And part of me sort of knew what she was saying, and I see that in people. Um, like we used to have when I used to run regular choirs, we used to have a lot of people that worked in the health service and social services, and they'd come along in the evening absolutely wrecked after a long week's work.
Mm.
And when they went to work at the end of the evening, they were kind of shining and smiling, and some transformation had taken place. And I know that I'd done that, but I didn't really want to um, kind of own the fact that I had done that. I really do see it as a side effect. And as you say, it's therapeutic, but it's not therapy. And I've seen it in action so many times that part of me just takes it for granted now. I know it's incredibly powerful. And if you've done it a long time, you see it time and time again. But for those individuals for whom it might be their first time, they might come up to you and say, "Oh my God, that was so amazing! Oh wow!" And I'm listening to that, going, "Yeah, I know." But for them, it's the first time they've experienced that.
Absolutely. And yeah, it's not something I ever lay claim to. I always say it's the singing. The singing has done
Yes.
it. And
Yeah,
it's the
yeah, yeah.
singing and the combination of the singing and a person's intent and ability to commit to that. Because really, they're the person doing the singing, and they're the one that's been willing to take the risk. And actually, because it is a risk, as we've said, it's a risk to walk into a group of strangers and share your voice and to be present with people. That takes a certain amount of guts. And I know I've had people who've said to me, "Oh, it took me quite a long time." They've sent me an email maybe a few months or even a year or two before, and it's taken them 2 years to actually get in the room because they were scared. And so it really is testimony to the people that come and that are willing to, as I say, sort of jump over that creative edge and then experience the incredible reward that comes as a result of that risk taking.
But there's a funny thing that people, I suppose it's very easy for people to point to us as song leaders and kind of say, you've done this amazing thing. And we know that it was them who did it.
Yeah.
So an example is that in my community choirs, I'd maybe teach a song. I'd be conducting it. Maybe people were very familiar with it. So I'd be still moving my arms around a bit. And then I'd say, well, let's do it again. And I'd just be standing in front of them, listening, not doing anything. And then I would walk away and they would all start to panic and everything would go wrong. And I would ask them why. And they say, well, we need you there. And I was, why do you need me here? Because I wasn't doing anything. I was just standing here listening to you. Why have you given me this power? Why have you given up your own responsibility for making this amazing sound? It's you guys that are doing it, not me. I've taught it to you, but now I'm redundant. I've always seen my job as a choir leader to become redundant. So I'm now going to walk away. And once they've sort of realized that, and there's been a little bit of a wobbly, they suddenly become very cohesive as a group. And they listen to each other and they realize that it's them as a group, as a little community of individuals who are creating this incredibly powerful thing. And I've just sort of presented it to them and invited them, and they've taken that on board. But most people are reluctant to take responsibility for that somehow. They point to us and say, oh, it's you who did it. But it's not, it's them.
Absolutely. I think that probably has a lot to do with the social conditioning, you know, that we are kind of conditioned perhaps to look to teachers and to external experts a lot. And there's a lot of messaging in society about that from the get-go, isn't there? That the teacher knows best and well done and pat you on the head, etc. And we learn how to jump through hoops as we go through life for those kind of rewards. But actually that empowerment, you know, I find that really inspiring, you talking about that, because actually it is about, this is giving, it's a person's voice and then finding it for themselves in the midst of a shared experience. And that once you have that, and I've seen people really who have really claimed that, really have some extraordinary results out of the room, you know, like actually they've suddenly gone, oh, I can sing, so that means I can also speak and I can talk up for myself and I can be confident and my voice is important, and all these sort of other things start happening. But that really comes from them saying, yeah, this is my voice, I'm owning this for myself, and allowing that to land, isn't it? Yeah.
I had two things I'd like to share. On Sunday, I went to a companion voices session. I don't know whether you know about companion voices, singing for the end of life. So as a group of strangers, we learned a couple of songs and we talked about what companion voices do. And at some point we went around the circle and introduced ourselves. And the lady standing next to me said she was there as the administrator. She doesn't sing. She's not a singer. But she joined into all the songs. And I'm standing next to her. We're singing the same part and I can hear her. And she's got this lovely voice. And so in the break, I said to her, when you open your mouth and the noise is coming out, what is it you think you're doing there? That's what we call singing. And she went, oh, no, that's not singing. I said, why isn't it? Or, well, I don't have a lovely voice. It's not beautiful and it takes me a while to learn. You know, all the stuff that we hear all the time. But I was just pointing out, but that's what we call singing, opening your mouth and the noise comes out. And 99% of the time you were getting it right. And it sounded lovely. And I thought that was weird. And the other experience was at some point, half of the group sung to the other half. And we lay on the ground with our eyes shut, which is slightly different than being in an audience. And I realized that the only time that you're sung to really is often as a child, when your mother's singing lullaby. And as we grow up, we don't have that opportunity, really. Yeah, in the singing sessions that we facilitate, it happens all the time. And it's very easy for us singing leaders to forget how unique powerful this whole thing is, um, enabling people to realize that they are actually singing, being sung to in a very focused way, being in a room with no equipment. Often people say to me, well, of course you're going to need a piano. No, 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 we don't need a piano. We just need the people and the voices. And it's very easy, if we've been doing it for a while, to lose sight of how extraordinary and unique that is.
Yeah. Yeah, I hear you. And I think that is a really tragic thing that I don't know what it is that says no, once you're an adult, you don't get sung to. And I've been in various different kinds of workshops. I've been in workshops where, for example, we all sang everybody's name to a person, and that was extremely powerful for that person to sit in the middle and to have their name sung to them. And I mean, obviously, we sing happy birthday to each other. That's probably as close as it gets, I suppose, as adults that
Yeah,
we'd
yeah,
get sung to. And that can bring up all sorts of things. And you can see people getting either awkward or ecstatic about that and everything in between. But yeah, it is. I think it's a tragic thing. And I do feel like I think it's something that would have happened. I mean, for example, when I read even Thomas Hardy's novels and I go back to there and you see that that was a community that sang about everything and that we did have songs that accompanied everything. Particularly if you worked in the field, you would sing there. Then you would go to church and you would sing to the babies. Singing was kind of threaded through everyday life and everyday activity. And I do feel that somehow that's got lost a little bit in our modern day culture. Would you agree with that?
yeah, yeah, very much so. And it's very different from going to a concert. So although there are a group of people that are singing for you, you bought your ticket and they're singing for you. This is very different from being in a room and you're just like a meter away from people and they've specially decided to sing to you. I found it incredibly moving. Really, I
Mm.
was surprised how emotional I became.
Yeah,
And then I realized that doesn't happen to me. Nobody does that to me. When it's the happy birthday thing, it's kind of expected. It's a bit of a naff song.
yeah,
Um, and it's usually in a very public forum and you got your social face on and everything. This was very different. This was
yeah.
just lie quietly on the floor, shut your eyes, and we're going to sing to you. And you just
Mm.
listen to the sound washing over you. And it was a beautiful song and it was incredibly moving. And it should, I said, it should be, there should be singing for the grieving. There should be singing like for mental health like that on the NHS. There should be groups of people that come around your house and just sing to you.
Yeah. And I suppose some of our older cultural traditions, like wakes, and where that would have been, for example, you would have had in the Irish tradition the keeners. So you would have women who would come and keen for you and sing and wail and lament on behalf of the family and for you and with you, so that you could then express your grief, for example.
Yeah.
So there are those old traditions, but as you say, they're not here now. And I think that is a tragic thing, isn't it? It's a tragic thing.
Mm, mm, mm.
And something that's so, yeah, so primal, and that we all need that. I remember when my nephew was born and I remember thinking, wow, he needs so much touch, and we need to touch him all the time, and we need to talk to him all the time, we need to hold him all the time, we need to sing to him and say, make noises to him all the time. And I thought, wow, no wonder we're all crackers, because we all actually need that. We still need that.
Yeah,
We're
yeah,
just
yeah.
pretending that we don't need it as adults. So yeah, it's really quite extraordinary.
But
Amazing.
that's the power of song. We started off by talking about people um, discovering their singing voice and singing together, but it's also as listeners and hearing song as well. Both sides of it are equally important, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. And I always say singing is like 90% listening, because you have and there's
Uh,
a lot of focus, isn't there, on, oh, what sound am I making? But we can only make that sound if we're really listening and the coming to being present enough to really hear. And as you say, let go of all the analytical brain and the other things that get in the way sometimes. Actually, really, really listening is what enables us to sing. And yeah, amazing, amazing. And what would you say for anyone that wants to go on that journey of finding their voice? Do you have, obviously, get in a room with people
yeah,
beyond that, though, people that are perhaps listening and want to start exploring their voice, what would you say?
But sometimes that's the hardest part. You said people maybe emailed you a year ago and now they've only finally got around to it. It's actually getting people in the room is the hardest part. It's not as scary as you think. I spend a lot of time at the beginning of my sessions trying to point out that everybody in the room is equally nervous. Everybody in the room, nobody in the room knows what's coming next because they don't know what the song's going to be. Nobody thinks they can sing. Um, all of that stuff is you're not alone. Everybody in the room is going to feel the same. So getting somebody to get in the room is the most important thing. And then the thing I was going to say, you've just said it, which is listen more loudly than you sing. Listening is the most important thing. So when you're starting out, you might not want to join in straight away. If you're learning a song, if you're a little bit self-conscious or you're a bit worried about your voice cracking or whatever, you might want to spend quite a lot of time listening. But that's learning just as much. And when the time does come when you feel comfortable to make a sound, you've done the important bit, which is the listening. So quite often, if the opportunity arises and I'm teaching, I turn all the lights out. And what usually happens is it all goes pear-shaped at that point, which kind of demonstrates that people weren't listening. But in the dark, they don't have any alternative but to listen. And then there are the other kinds of people who are used to singing from sheet music. And if you take that away from them, they start to flounder a bit because they're very used to looking. They associate singing with looking and reading. And it takes a while for them to relax into it. But if you listen, that's 90 odd % of the job done, really. And people don't do that enough. We don't do it in life very much. I try and put that into practice. I'm not very good at it, but when I'm having a conversation with somebody, I try to listen more than I speak. Because when you speak, you're just sharing stuff that you already know. If you listen, you're going to discover things. So it's because in society we're a very visual culture, it's quite hard when people come to a singing group to gradually train them to listen more carefully. But that's, I think, one of the most important things.
Absolutely. Yeah, the listening is absolutely fundamental. And we're in a very noisy, distracting kind of world, aren't we? And
Yeah.
to give ourselves the space and the grace to actually still down enough to hear each other when we're listening in conversations. And yeah, not just listening to think, oh, I know I want to say my thing next, actually to listen and to not, same with singing, isn't it? Not to listen just to anticipate, oh, my part's coming soon, but also to listen to the whole sound. And I'm sure you see stages. I mean, I say to people, well, there will be a stage where you'll be like, oh, and you'll see it. People will kind of go try and huddle in a group so they can't hear the other parts. And I say, well, actually, you need to let the other part in because you won't know where your part is unless you're hearing the whole sound. So that's an acceptable stage, but we don't want to get stuck there. We have to hear the whole sound, and then we find our place within the sound, and that's a magical thing.
Yeah, because a lot of people, when they're starting out and they think about harmony, they think the harmony is going to put them off. And if you can move people around and juggle it so that you're standing next to somebody singing something different, 9 times out of 10, the person says, oh, that was really helpful, rather than it put me off. There's that immediate response like, no, 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 I don't want to hear the other bits. I've just got to do what I know. But it as you say, it's helpful and you get a sense of the whole then as well.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And so tell us, Chris, where can people come and have these wonderful experiences with you at the moment? Tell us about what you're doing.
I do 6 residential singing weekends a year now. And I do lots of one-off singing days in different parts of the country. So people just need to go to my website, which is chrisrowbury.com, and all the information's there. And I find that I find it very, very rewarding in a shorter one-off session rather than a weekly choir. The energy can stay up for a lot longer, and people are even more surprised when we get to the end and all the songs come together. They kind of go, wow, how did that happen? Because when we started out, it didn't seem possible that we were ever going to nail it. And at the end, the enormous satisfaction, um, and lack of commitment as well. There are some people that don't like to commit to going to choir every week. So I get quite a few people who like to come to one-off events.
Fantastic. And so, if you tell us about what's the kind of format, do people come and learn a set of songs and then you sing them at the end of the weekend, or does it vary? How do you approach that?
The weekend is just a bit of a longer version of a one-day thing. What I always do at the end, whether it's a weekend or a one-day thing, is I record the songs. It started off as a marketing technique that then people would sign up to my mailing list because I needed their email address to send them the songs. But actually, it turned out to be a very valuable gift to people. I had one woman come up to me and say, I've been going to workshops for years. I never realized how great we sounded. Because people are inside the group, singing group, they don't get to hear the full glory of all the harmonies mixed together. So that I recorded at the end so people can hear how wonderful it is. Also, as soon as people leave, they forget everything.
Yeah.
So it's nice to be, I imagine everyone going home and saying, so darling, what did you do today? I don't know. Stuff. We did some singing thing. What did you sing? I don't know. I don't know, singing stuff. But the other thing is that if you do something over a short period of time, a one day or a weekend, I've read somewhere, if you revise something at the point of forgetting it, so just before you forget it, so in a day's workshop, it's towards the end of the day, and in a weekend's workshop, towards the end of the weekend, if you revise it then it goes into your long-term memory. So
Right.
it's an excuse to revise all the songs at the end for the recording device is also an excuse to go over the songs again, so it embeds it more in people's minds. And then when they leave, they will find that the following Wednesday at 2 o'clock in the morning, they will wake up with the part perfectly inside their head. And it's my little gift to people that they can take away.
That's right. Those little earworms that suddenly pop up.
That's the other reason I do this job is I would like to give my earworms to everybody else so I don't have them and they can take it away with them.
Right. So you're actually just peddling earworms. That's basically what you're doing.
Exactly.
Fantastic. And do you want to tell us a little bit about your involvement with the Natural Voice Network as well? Because I know you've supported the network for a long time, and maybe people haven't heard of that as well.
Yeah, I got involved with it many, many years ago. When I joined, I think there were 60 people, and I knew everybody by sight and name. And now I think there are 800 or something people.
Amazing.
So this is a period of 20, 25 years, say. When I started out, I was often the only choir in the area that was working on the natural voice principles. And now there are 10 times as many, and there are choirs everywhere, which is fantastic. And the most important thing for me is, going back to how we started this conversation, you just need a bunch of people in a room. The natural voice principles are that anyone can sing. Of course, open your mouth and a noise comes out. It should be accessible to anyone, so we don't have any auditions or use anything technical terminology or sheet music or anything. And those are the two most important things to me, that anyone can come and make music together.
Amazing. 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 Thank you for sharing that, because it is because there are so many cultures, as we've touched on, that have very much oral traditions, and that we would have all learnt that way. And we do all learn that way, actually. When we first learn to sing and speak and make sound, we all learn in an oral way. We don't sit and get given sheet music as babies. We start from that live lived experience of exchanging sound with the people that love us and look
Also,
after us.
as we grow up, as we get older, as teenagers or younger or even older, we hear stuff on the radio or on Spotify or whatever. We learn it by repeated listening. That's the oral tradition, and we go around. Nobody gives out the sheet music with the top 20, do they?
No, that's right. It's an experiential. It's totally an experiential learning, isn't it? It really is, and that's what we're trying to facilitate for people, is to have that experience and come. I always see it as a bit of a homecoming, really, coming home to a part of us that's innate, that's already there, an instrument that's already inside of us, and that we don't need anything extra for, really. Just as
Yeah,
you say,
exactly.
space in a room with great
Yeah.
people.
And people
Fant-
that like singing harmony are always lovely people.
of course, of course.
Yes. If you want to be if you've got a big ego, then you'll go off and do solos. But if you want to make harmony, you are automatically believing in community and things like that.
Yeah, and it is a great piece of cooperation, isn't it? You have to be willing to subsume yourself into the collective sound, and therefore it's definitely different from singing solos, isn't it? Definitely, for sure. And that's why it's such a great community builder. And we know that it also releases all those things like oxytocin and bonding hormones and all those stuff. But brings people together. Fantastic. Well, thank you. And where can people find you, Chris, if they want to come on board?
My website, chrisrowbury.com. That's ROWBURY. My mum used to say, "You row us across and then you bury us." Rowbury. chrisrowbury.com is my website.
So you can row across and get buried in harmony with Chris.
That's my new strapline, shouldn't it?
It is, yeah, right. I like it. Oh, wow. Fantastic. Well, thank you so much for sharing your incredible wisdom about, singing and sound and voice with us. It's just been amazing to talk to you. And, a big thank you from me because, I've benefited from your support indirectly and directly, having been to your workshops and also as a member of the NVN and the work that you've put in there. So, big thank you from me personally, and I'm sure from many other people in that network, and also all the people that I'm sure that come to sing and have those wonderful experiences with you. So thanks, Chris, for, I know you've dedicated a lot of your life to this. So, amazing. Thank you.
Thanks for inviting me. I really enjoyed it. It's nice to have to talk to somebody who kind of, I know what you mean. I know exactly what you mean.
Yeah, and it's a magical thing, isn't it? Singing, it's just a magical, intoxicatingly gorgeous, lovely thing, and it can do so much in so many different ways. So yeah,
And
if
you
you had
can't
one,
pin it down. So
you
AI
can't.
is never going to get hold of it.
No, that's the thing. You cannot get past just that simplicity of being in a room, just breathing with people, breathing and then making sound on that breath and listening to each other. That's incredible, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah. We've got to that point where there's no words left, isn't it? It gets like that in the room, doesn't it? There's that lovely silence sometimes, isn't it? When the song finishes and there's just that, oh, can't make any
Yeah.
words now.
All the little molecules are running around, sort of vibrating. And yeah, there's a wonderful, it's not silence, it's kind of sound silence. It's magic. Yeah.
Yeah. It's just sort of resonant with everything that's been created, isn't
Yeah.
it? Really. Well, thank you. I feel like I'm resonating now, even though we haven't sung literally together, but I feel like we have because we've talked about it, and I can feel the depths of your commitment and the beauty of the experiences you're having with people. So everyone go and sing with Chris, go and find him on the website. And please stay tuned for more episodes, more chats about the magic of voice. Let us know what you got from this conversation. Share it with people, tell people to sing and enjoy the magic for themselves. Because, we just want to give everyone earworms, isn't it? Basically.
Exactly. Yeah.
Oh, thank you so much, Chris, for your time. Really appreciate it.
Pleasure.
Thank you. And thanks to everyone for listening and watching. Thank you. Over and out.
Change the world with your voice.